All right, the next section on our placement proficiency application we're going to look at today is the outcomes and efficiencies. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chip, but this is also would be on any of the forms. It would be on the entrepreneurship as well,
That's correct. Yes.
and a combination. But we're going to look at it today from a placement standpoint, I believe.
That's right.
So, again, we have Mr. Chip Blanton, who's going to give you some tips and tricks that he has learned through his great experiences judging nationally, as well as helping teachers across our state.
And the first thing you do when you look at outcomes and efficiencies and you are a placement application, you want to base most of your stuff on most of your things on outcomes because your skills that you're learning are the outcomes that are going into this. So hover over that question mark first, and it's going to show you some things. In year 2013, you had zero ability or skill to give vaccinations to companion animals. But through your work at a vet clinic, the experience, you have gained 100% ability to be successful in administering vet vaccinations your second year. The key is to develop a qualified, measurable goal or measurable outcome that clearly defines improvement or change. Measurable is the key. You go back to SMART goals, and that's all in the world this is. It's SMART goals. You've got to have one that's specific and it's measurable. And then when it's measurable, then those judges are going to be able to look at it and say, hey, I understand that. I know how that went. So, and slide down to efficiency factor now and see what it says about that. Uh, Notice that efficiency factors are mostly got to do with entrepreneurship activities. So you've got to have a measurable factor again, but for an entrepreneurship, it's going to be daily average daily gain or how many pounds they gained in a year or sale price, things like that. So if you're doing a placement application, try to stick with learning outcomes because that's a lot of what you're going to be dealing with in this. Now you slide on over to the how this factor or outcome impacted the management decisions, and hover over that question mark over under objectives, and that's going to give you some more tips. But as you go through, always hover over those question marks to get tips and facts about what you need to be putting in there. So what we're going to do, you add these. These are not from AET. You add these right here where it says add a new efficiency outcome, and we're going to click on that, and it's going to bring down a little box for you to talk about what your learning outcome or efficiency factor is. Label it. Say learning outcome, and so that judge won't be confused as to, it'll be very clear as to what it is. So you label it learning outcome, then you tell what the beginning year was and what the beginning level was. Now you can do this beginning level as a percentage, as beginner, but be careful using percentages because if you say, okay, I was 10% efficient at determining whether or not I'd done a good job weed eating when I started, and when I finished, I was 95%. Well, how can you measure 95% of that? So that might be beginner and advanced and intermediate. There's different depending on what you're doing. Be sure you use the correct words, and then describe how it impacted your management decisions or your performance objectives. what did you want to do? Now, when you started out your goals, you could go back to your goals and uh, if you use the pencil at the beginning of when you started setting your SAE up, then you could go back and insert some of that stuff here if you wanted to. But this is a big point area. Uh, when you start doing outcomes and efficiencies and skills, competencies and knowledge, that's a big outcome area. And it says to do 5. You can do as many as you want to do, and I think it's a good idea to do a bunch of them and then pick the 5 that you want to do. I think this is a 10-point area, which out of 100, that can mean the difference in being gold and silver, or bronze and silver. So you want to make sure that you do a good job with this, because they're not going to just go down there and give you 2 points for each one. They're going to read each one of them and and do that. If you read up here at the top, it says for placement SAEs, focus on your learning outcomes and how your skill attainment or learning has improved. That's what you want to do for a placement application. You don't want to do efficiencies, because like I read one this year that said when I first started, I could only serve 15 customers a day, and then by the end of the year I could serve 25 customers a day. Well, that's not detailed enough as to how you got better. Why were you able to serve more? And that's what they want to know. Always start with why. That's what they want to know, is why were you able to do more now than you were before? What skill did you develop that you did not have when you started? So then you hit insert at the bottom, and that inserts it into the application, and you go on from there. You do as many of these as you want to, but make sure you have at least 5, because that's what they're going to base it on, is 5. So now the next one down is skills, competencies, and knowledge, and it can flow from AET.
So, Mr. Chip, could we give them a good example here for a learning outcome? Like with Barney working in maybe irrigation, maybe it's working they have a ditch digger or something. What would be a good learning outcome for a landscape?
Okay. Let's say in the beginning, I wasn't able to correctly place the sprinkler heads where they needed to be, but after working with my supervisor and studying, I was better able to do this on my own with his help, with minor help, with minor help. And then at the bottom, how's that going to affect management decisions? Someday I hope to have my own business, and I'm going to need to know how to place sprinkler heads so they properly water the areas that need water.
We're running into a character count here on this. So under learning outcome, you said you would put learning outcome similar to what we have on the screen.
Uh-huh.
Then how could we briefly
describe what you're talking about? Sprinkler head placement.
We can just put sprinkler head placement and then describe it below. Come down here and say, in the beginning.
Yep. Or you could actually refer back to the date in 2019. There are little tricks all along to save characters. You could put in 1/1/2019, I could do this, and by this date I could do this. Always be sure and tell why.
So we've explained what the why we were at beginning level, what we did to improve it, and then we need to end it with
I think,
this, how this has affected their performance.
yes, this has made me more able to operate on my own. Work unsupervised. There you go.
I could still. Would that be something that would work?
Yeah, that would work well.
We would go insert and there it would be. And then like you said, teachers, you can put multiple and you will click to select the 5 you want to show up on the application.
And if you need to go back and edit, you can do that. Um, but here is probably where you need to stay away from the numbers, because when they're judging it, the number, it tells you to use the numbers in some cases, and that's fine for some things. But relate what you put here back to what you're what you're talking about, and you need to make sure that you have the 5. I have some that didn't have 5; they just had 3, and I think somewhere on there at one time it said 3 to 5, and I think it still does say 3 to 5 when you're judging them. But believe me, they're looking for 5. And when I don't care whether it's star in agribusiness or proficiency application, they're looking for 5. If you've got 3 and the guy that you're against and it's a close contest and he's got 5, he's going to win, because they want to see as many as possible.